Welcome back to Trip Talk Tech. Man, we back at it again. We got another monthly mental health check topic. We're joined today by our co-host of this segment. I just might as well call him a co-host because there ain't no need to call him a guest no more. He here every time we talking mental health. Hey, please help me welcome to the show, licensed therapist Rashad Bowtie Mills, man.
What's up, my brother? How are you?
How you doing? Welcome to the show.
Man, thank you for having me again. Now, listen, for the people that listening, that's going to listen and watch, I don't have on my bow tie today.
we and look, we gonna let you have it. Chills. It's the holiday, so we
Okay,
we, we give
let,
you
let me slide.
we'll let you chat on that one. Hey man, though, but like as always, man, we just salute you. We thank you just for taking your time and sharing your wisdom with us. Obviously, we know you got a lot of things you could be doing, but you're taking your time with us, so we do appreciate you for that one, man.
No, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure, and I know we'll jump into it. Today's topic is it's very timely, so it's a pleasure to be on and talk about it.
That's what's up. Hey everybody, just so you know, real quick, a quick background check on my guy Rashad Bowtie Mills. He has his own podcast. He has his own Facebook page, YouTube. He has his own channels where he basically does this motivation for mental health. Has a lot of different mental wellness things. He talks about a lot of motivational things. Rashad, tell them how to get in contact with you so they can get some of that stuff up close.
Keith, I appreciate the alley oop. I'll dunk it in real quick. I'm Rashad Bowtie Mills on all forms of social media: Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Every Friday, I have what I call is my happy hour motivational piece. Meet me at happy hour. The podcast is on the way, but throughout the course of the week, I give people motivation and uplifting content. Happy hours on Fridays, and then therapy Thursdays. It's a new therapeutic topic every Thursday. So those are the sort of the ways and the ways and the days, if you will, to kind of stay abreast of some of the things that I'm doing.
My God, my God. Hey, recently I've been releasing a lot of videos just because of the holiday season, time of the year, Christmas, whatever you're celebrating this time of the year. Um, and it's been about for me, obviously on the tech side, it's been a lot about protecting identity theft,
Mhm.
being careful with, your credit cards and your finances and protecting all of that stuff. So I was sitting back and thinking like, well, how can we keep that same energy, that same thing, but put it over on the mental health, mental awareness side around this time of
Mhm.
year? I'm sure again, we definitely want to keep our money safe. We want to keep our identity safe. But in this time of year, I'm sure some things going on that are hard to manage. It's holiday time. It's supposed to be this great family time of the year. Some people don't have their family members. Obviously gift giving goes on around this time of year. People don't have the money or whatever the resources they might want around this time of year. School closing down, not closing down, but the end of semesters, big tests. I got to go home, maybe not with the best grade out there, right? So, we had a topic originally that we were going to go over this month, but because of the time of the year, I text Rashad. I discussed it with him. He thought it was definitely dope to switch up,
Mhm.
and he would definitely help us out here. So, with that all being said, um, we're going to talk about today seasonal affective disorder, which acronyms down to S.A.D, which
Mhm.
is
Yep.
kind
Strange,
of
right?
funny in itself. Not funny, but hey, it worked out that way. Rashad, S.A.D, can you tell us a little about kind of what that disorder is and um, how can a certain time of the year trigger it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So, seasonal affective disorder, as you said, sad. So it affects a lot of people around this time, right? So we talk about the changing of the season. So we're making the transition from summer into fall,
Mhm.
and it affects a lot of people. And one of the causes of it is it's rooted in a lack of vitamin D, right? A vitamin D deficiency. So one of the things actually, Keith, that I was preparing for today's session, one of my dear friends, he was on another podcast and I was listening, and this just happened to be the topic as well. And I heard
Wow.
something that I had never heard as it relates to seasonal affective disorder. And it said that as black and brown people, we are naturally vitamin D deficient.
Mm.
And he went on to say, he sort of gave this technical, not technical, but I guess we'll say technical answer. And it was, we're naturally vitamin D deficient simply because we come from the equator, and in different, depending where you are in terms of location in the country, right? Think about it. It feels like there are places that you live in where you're not exposed to sunlight as much. So depending where you live in, seasonal affective disorder can affect you in a place that um, maybe that you see the sun as much. So if you're in a place like Florida where the sun is out, it feels like all year round, 365 days. Think about a place. I'm just rattling off some random places here. Seattle, right?
Yeah.
Where it's not as much sun. So think of black and brown people that live in maybe the great Northwest where it is cloudy. You don't see the sun out as much, so it affects them a lot more. And
Wow.
so here's one of the things that people have to consider with seasonal affective disorder. Your body has to make a shift from going from one time of the year to
Hmm.
another time of the year. And for a lot of people, that shift is very hard to make. And I think going back to last year, I would imagine that more people felt this than this year because, when I say last year, when talking about the height
COVID.
of COVID, people were in the house, so they didn't get that limited bit of sun anyway. So
Gotcha.
we don't have that vitamin D. Um, and that deficiency, I would imagine at that time was even higher. But yes, it stems from a vitamin D deficiency, and it is sort of a type of depression that people experience, going
Mhm.
from going from summer to fall and even winter to spring. People don't That can be a part of it as well. So it's two types of, not types, but two seasons in which it could happen. But this is the one that we see even more. And these things are totally different, right? But I
Mhm.
think for a lot of people, we talk about seasonal affective disorder, and coupled with the fact that you alluded to, talking about the holidays. And for many people, that's just a very challenging time of year, very sad. You add this in that you're not out and about, you're not receiving that sun, and you
Mhm.
know what, that vitamin D does something for your mood. It's sort of this correlation between vitamin D and one's mood. And so that's how we can arrive at a situation where people are experiencing more sadness during this type of on this time of the year as opposed to others.
Got you. Now, what are some of those symptoms of hey, I might be, have some seasonal, affective disorder, or I might be going through this and I might need to check and maybe check in with a therapist. Is it just I feel depressed? Is it, I'm just not feeling being around people, period? What does that feeling come across as?
It could be all of those things, right? So
Okay.
maybe it's lethargic behaviors, the things that you were normally excited about prior to this change in the season. You don't have the energy. Maybe it's a situation with appetite. Maybe it's that you find yourself not wanting to engage and be around people as much. Here's the thing, and I'll talk about this because maybe some of the people that are listening and or watching will ask this question. How can I differentiate between seasonal affective disorder and then depression? So think
Exactly.
about this. Seasonal just means a season. You know this season is approaching. So you know that every year there's going to be a transition from summer to fall. If every year around this time, this particular season, you notice a difference in feeling, then we can basically say, okay, this may be more seasonal affective disorder being as opposed to some kind of depression that's caused by something else. This is sort of very consistent. Again, it's a seasonal disorder. These seasons are coming around every year. And if you always feel like, hey, September, October, I notice that when the time changes, I'm a little bit different, then maybe that's something that you go to your therapist for. And then going to the therapist, maybe, the therapist can give you something to help it. There's a lot of over counter medications. You
Mhm.
can go to any grocery store, Walmart, Target, by vitamin D supplements. That helps. Even lamp therapy, because again, you're not getting that maximum amount of sunlight. And I even heard aromatherapy is one that I never even
Mhm.
thought about. Maybe there are certain smells and things of that nature that can help. And for me, I'm always going to advocate for movement. I feel like in every trip talk that we have, it's something about
Gotta get out.
movement that is incredible because again, we're in the house more during this time naturally. And so I
Hmm.
think that you have to have some movement. Guess what the movement prompts us to do? The movement prompts us to get outside and maybe take advantage of, the sunlight that we have, um, the opportunity to be a part of. So I think movement is always going to be huge, and it's something about the holidays that I feel like that this holiday
Hmm.
season, that it prompts a lot of people to be in the house more, experiencing family members, loved ones, friends.
Hmm.
Um, and sort of a lot of those activities that we engaged in, it feels like that it slows down a bit, and our level of consistency falls off a little bit. So if our level of consistency falls off a little bit, engaging in movement, we're in the house more, and all of these things, they add up, and they add up to what, that an individual can sort of experience the seasonal affective disorder.
Like you mentioned, you mentioned a lot of different ways that we can try to combat, SAD if we think we're in that region. One you said was just simple as vitamin D. Is it? I know you go in as 30,000 different bottles, and maybe you don't have an IU dosage level yet, but is it like kind of recommended doses? Again, I'm talking to the person that you know who that person isn't necessarily. Maybe I'm not confident yet to go to my therapist to get that recommendation for him
Mhm.
to say, hey, you need vitamin D, but this. So it's like I'm listening to this, I'm hearing vitamin D, but now I'm in CVS. What do I pick? Like, is any
And
recommendation?
that's a great question. I would say you'll never fail in terms of starting low and then going high. And when I
Okay.
say starting low, so if you go in there and you buy a bottle and you see a very low in terms of milligrams, right?
Hmm.
You never go wrong in terms of starting low as opposed to starting high and then needing to come back. So if you feel like that you start low and you don't feel any adjustment, then maybe you can go back and then get a higher dosage. But that's a great question because a lot of people don't want to, they
Hmm.
don't know, or they don't want to go to a therapist. So that's a great question. But if you want to start low and just kind of monitor it, right? And I think
Yeah.
with anything, an individual has more say in terms of how they feel than any therapist or anybody else. So just kind of monitor. Do you notice? Have you noticed you've been taking it for a month and you see improvement? Okay, great. Maybe we can stick with that. Have you noticed you've been taking it for a month and you feel absolutely nothing? Maybe that then presents itself as an opportunity to increase the dosage
Hmm.
and see if that helps a little bit. But definitely kind of monitor how you feel. And I can't stress, and we just talked about this, but I can't stress it enough that people should monitor if you notice this every year for the last 2 or 3 years. Because a lot of people, am I just naturally depressed around
Just
this time?
depressed. Yeah.
And I think it's just monitoring and the self awareness in terms of one's own body and how they feel.
Now you mentioned also light therapy, and I was reading on that with SAD as well. Uh, Now I'm guessing that would have to be some type of prescription, or where would one get light therapy, or do you just buy like one of the Amazon lights and
You listen, that's a great place to go because Amazon literally has everything you need. You can build a house if you need to
hey,
through
no plug
Amazon.
for Amazon. I ain't paying no bills, but yeah,
Yeah, listen, we gave them a free
yeah, we
plug,
gave him
right?
a freebie.
So I think that you can Google it, like light, in not even Amazon, but just Google it
Yeah,
and see
yeah,
what's,
yeah.
into your neighborhood. I don't think that you have to spend a large portion of money to do, but I think that that can be very helpful. Plug it in right next to what to where you sleep at, and I think that can be really, really good. Because again, depending where you are in
Hmm.
terms of location, that weather may be just that weather may
Yeah.
be just too cold and you literally may be going out to work and coming back. Here's another thing, Keith, that I want to mention.
Yes, sir.
I don't want to gloss over this because this is important. Think about what most of us are doing now in terms of work. We're not leaving out the house. So those normal, maybe 2 hours, total time going to work and coming back, we're
Hmm.
not even getting that. Right. So now the majority of the day, many of us are doing what? We're waking up, we're eating, and then we're going to our, respective workstations in our house. There have been days, probably, I know in the last 30 to 45 days, because I work from home, I haven't left other than taking my kids to school. So
Understood.
imagine if I weren't taking my kids to school, then I'm not receiving any sunlight at all. I jog when it's early in the morning. So going back to this therapy in terms of having like a light and a lamp, I think that that's great because why? I can plug it up and no matter what the weather is like, if I never leave my house, I still have access to light.
That's an interesting point you just brought up because that's our new reality, right? Working
Yep.
from home, and are you seeing an uptick with more depression or even seasonal type stuff? Because again, we are closed in, we aren't getting that vitamin D from the sun, not getting outside. Are you seeing an uptick on that side or not really?
I This year for me as a therapist, not so much,
Okay.
because I think people have. the start of this year, I think people, I would say maybe April or May, started to notice people got out more, right? They felt
Yeah.
a little more comfortable vaccines and all that stuff, and they got out more. But I know last year I saw a lot of it because
Mm.
again, more people were in the house, a large percentage of the time. So this year, I think with the vaccines and some other things, I think people were just tired of being in the house. They were going to take their chances one way or the other. They
Mhm.
were out more. But last year, I saw a ton of it. I mean, I saw literally a ton of it, and I'm going to attribute to people being in the house more.
Got you. Got you. Have you seen in your practice, or do you see this in talking to people, social media kind of also egging these depressive symptoms on, just the constant comparing of, you going up and down reels and storylines. Everything looks so beautiful, and Christmas for everybody is family and snow globes, but
Yep.
for me, it's just are you getting a lot of that? Is
Yeah,
that kind of egg on sad?
yeah. It's kind of funny, and obviously due to confidentiality, I can't say. But I had a client
Understood.
the other day. Matter of fact, it was yesterday, and she kind of talked about she watched um, one of her friends celebrate something that she's always wanted to celebrate.
Hmm.
And she said, Rashad, I really felt depressed. And one of the things that I kind of talked about with her is I said, you have to be careful not to shit on yourself. And I kind of joke with people because they're thinking I'm saying the curse word, but it's the should have, would have, could have. And hopefully you didn't think I was cursing. So it's the should have on your.
Hey, we let you go off. Hey,
No,
look, we, we,
it's the
we let
should have.
authenticness go here, but
Listen, the should have, would have, and could have. As a therapist, I think I heard this in grad school that a lot of clients, based on their cognitions, they should on themselves. I should be here based on something else. And social media is a great it's a great, and maybe I should use a different word, but it's a great way to put yourself in a predicament that you don't want to be in based on what you think somebody is doing. Particularly in this holiday season, we see people spending time with family. So imagine an individual that doesn't have access to their family. Maybe they're still actively grieving a family member. They see these gorgeous pictures and everybody's dressed in their Christmas colors and it looks great.
Mhm.
And then these depressive thoughts can sink in. But in reality, everybody in that picture may actually hate each other. Right?
Right.
Right? Think about the person that is, striving for to gain materialistic things. Nothing wrong with that. Then on
Right.
Christmas Day, they see people with the designer shoes, the designer belt. They just went out and bought the latest coupe. But in actuality, they may be in a massive amount of debt just to get those things and
Pictures.
have this vision of what they want people to see via social media. And I tell this a lot of my younger clients. I always tell them be careful of the lens that you view social media through. Social media can be, it's a different lens for everybody. I
True.
may see, keep talking about, hey man, I just hit I just hit the lottery and I bought this house and I have a pool and I have two horses. I may view that as motivational based on the lens in which I'm looking at it through.
True.
Somebody else may view that from a very a jealous lens. Somebody else may view that from the lens of, well, what am I not doing wrong? Keith just bought the
Mhm.
house and he has the horses in the back with the pool. What,
Mhm.
what am I not doing? And they may internalize it and view themselves from a very negative thought pattern.
Gotcha.
So you just got to be very, very careful. And I think certain times of the year, the holidays, they do
Mhm.
heighten that a lot because let's make no mistake about it. December the 25th,
Yep.
somebody is going to post everything that they got on social media. And there's going to be somebody on the other end like, it's
I
damn
didn't get
small.
that.
I can't afford. Why in the heck would they do that? And so it's just
Mhm.
important to understand that the lens and which you look at these things through. And you really got to be careful because in the spirit of being honest, I have to be honest because that's who I
Mhm.
am. Man, there have been times that I have watched people in my field, other motivational speakers, um, be blessed with opportunities. And my brain was like, oh man, what am I not doing? What am I not doing? I think I should be ready for this. And then I
Yeah.
always have to peel back and check myself. I have no idea what that picture is truly like. I have no idea what they did in order to get that opportunity. I have no idea what they went through to get that
To get to
opportunity.
that point.
Some
Yep.
people have been, graced with opportunities that maybe I couldn't have handled what they went through. And I know it's
Definitely.
the case for me and for other people. I'm sure,
Definitely.
you know, there's people that look at me, oh man, he gets this opportunity, but they may not have been able to walk in my shoes and go through whatever I went through in order to get that opportunity. So we just got to be very careful, and that's probably a whole trip talk in
Numbers.
itself, because it's a lot of challenging thoughts about what we see others and how we relate that, well, how we relate that to us. So that was a great question because you'll see it more in the holidays.
Yeah, I appreciate that because again, like you said, I think we spend so much time, like you said, maybe that perspective changes. If we change that perspective of how we see things or see others, like you said, I instead of comparing that checklist, did I have this? Do I have
Yeah.
that? Don't I have that? And then, like you said, now I go into my own cove of, well, why don't I? Did I work hard enough? Well, if I never would
Hmm.
have did that 20 years ago, this would have been habit. I never in the
There you
circle or
go.
nothing.
That was great. The would have. If I did that 20 years ago, this would have happened. So that's the should have, right? The should have, would have, or
Should
I
have
could
myself.
have done this. And this had, and then we go back, and before you know it, I mean, you're going down this rabbit hole of second guessing everything you've done in the last 5 years just because
Mhm.
you're not where somebody else is, and we have no idea what people have gone through. Like one of my favorite motivational speakers, he
Mhm.
went through some things that I don't know if I could have handled when he went through them. And because
Mhm.
of that, he was presented with certain opportunities. I can't say I should be where he is. No, I might not have been able to do that,
Yeah.
right?
You might couldn't
So
relate to the things he could relate to in his family.
absolutely, absolutely, yep. So
Yeah.
it can be a rabbit hole of negative thoughts if we're not careful and sort of cognitively challenge these thoughts.
No, man, that's a great point. And like you said, challenging again these thoughts and these times, and that's a good point. And we're about to close, but say it's sad. Say I am feeling a little depressive. What are some mechanisms I can do to challenge those thoughts? Or hey, I have those negative thoughts when I wake up. Is it some maybe some quick things I can say to myself? Some things I can do real quick to kind of just snap me back to at least being able to quell or calm those thoughts down because those negative thoughts never going to bring anything positive, right? Yeah.
I'm going to go back to one. I'm going to go back to movement, particularly when so you said when I wake up. I think movement, particularly in the morning, I think it does something, right?
Hmm.
It can change one's mood just simply by moving.
Gotcha.
Other thing I'm going to go back to is I like for my clients to ask themselves questions. Is this real? What evidence do I have to support it? Those are two questions that I always ask. Is this real? Is
Mm-hmm.
this real that I'm a failure because I'm looking at somebody else and I think they're successful? Is this thought real that I'll always be depressed? Right? Um, Ask yourself those questions. Right? What evidence do I have to support what I'm thinking? That
That's good.
um, so a lot of times we talk about depression, it's some negative thoughts that go in there, and again it really is dependent upon what the person is quote unquote
Going through.
depressed about,
Hmm.
but I would ask people to challenge those thoughts. And then another thing too is finding gratitude.
Yeah,
No
definitely.
matter how dire or how difficult an individual situation is, gratitude helps, because if I can force my mind to, you know what, I'm thankful for this. I may be feeling a bit sad or I may be feeling depressed,
Hmm.
but I also have this to look forward to. And I think everybody has something that
Something
they
to be
can pull
thankful.
out. And when clients say, well, no, everything in my world is, it's nothing is going right, Rashad, we'll go back. Hey, you're alive. Okay, that's a start. For some of my clients, literally, I tell them, man, I always start my sessions with what I call a small win. What's your small win, right? I like to start on the positive note. This small thing, nothing, Rashad. Well, you made it to today's session.
That's a
You,
win.
you you fought the depression just to make it to today's session. You showed up. That's a small win. And just little things like that, finding gratitude, incorporating movement, challenging unhealthy thoughts. And then this last thing I always challenge my clients to do is go back and remind yourself of times that were good. So you know that it is possible to have a
To
life
get
that
back.
is always not always sort of you're dealing with depression and
all
negativity.
the time.
Yeah, kind of remind yourself, okay, I've I went through something before, but I was able to make it out. And I can go on. This is the last one.
No, 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 no. We good.
It's called Play the Tape Out, right?
All
And I
right.
actually stole this from one of my colleagues, and I can't remember who, and I want to make sure I give them credit if I can remember their name. But it's playing the tape out. A lot of times with negative thoughts, particularly depression, think of it as a tape or a song, if you will.
Okay.
You only sometimes with depression, you only play half of the song, right? Play
Mhm.
the tape all the way out. And if you play the tape all the way out, it may tell you, okay, I'll be able to get through this. My entire life won't be through this. I'll be able to get past the relationship, get past losing the job or losing the family member. And it's just like playing the tape all the way out. Sometimes people they have this really this short-sighted way of thinking, and
Mhm.
they stuck in this moment. I encourage clients to think fast forward
Gotcha.
and play the tape out so the outcome can be a little bit different.
Man, you dropping some gems on them, man.
Rashad.
They look, they helped on this session. I don't know if they can't get no more. We got to charge after that. Hey, look, hey man, hey, I appreciate you, Rashad, as always. To circle back on the seasonal affective disorder, some things that we can do there to just help ourselves out if we feeling like we in that temporary seasonal state. First, get some vitamin D up in our lives. Start low, go high if you don't want to go to the doctor and get that recommended IU dosage. The next, like Rashad said, we could go just Google and what just regular light.
Yep.
All right, yeah, man, get some daylight in your life, shine some light on yourself. Light therapy will help. And then number three, I'm with Rashad. Let's just get up and do some exercise. Walk outside, maybe catch a little bit of sun. Get the heart moving, get things moving that'll, like he said, eventually probably push you outside where you get the vitamin D you need anyway, naturally. It might help yourself out. And
Yep.
then outside of that, Rashad, go ahead. You got it. Go.
Let me just jump in and say this one thing. I
Yeah.
literally Googled light therapy lamp, and they are, moderately priced. There's some on the high end, obviously, and then some on the lower end. So I think it's, it can be manageable depending on whatever your
What you Google
financial
search again there, boss, just so they know.
light therapy lamp.
Light
Yep,
therapy.
light
Lamp.
therapy lamp. So
Got it.
depending on, wherever you're at financially, I think this can be something that accommodates you.
Hey, and it's that time of the year. So hey, you can buy some light therapy. You give people some mental health gifts. They won't even that'll be
That's
left
the
field.
greatest kind of gift.
You know what I mean? That'll be left field and something taken a long way. Again, there's some things that help us with dealing with seasonal affective disorder. We hope we helped you today. If things get a little bit bigger than the vitamin D, the light therapy, and exercise, we definitely encourage you to go see a licensed therapist like Rashad. Uh, yeah, just go and get the help you need. Again, we're trying to break the stigma here. We having these conversations. Two men just talking about things that everybody go through, and it's not really anything to be ashamed of. So, we're gonna keep talking about it. We're gonna keep pushing the narrative. Hopefully, you guys will keep listening. I appreciate you, brother. Shout yourself out one more time so they can connect with you, because obviously I'm not on the mental health thing every single show. What you got?
Yep, Rashad Bowtie Mills, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, or RashadMills.com.
Hey man, as always, I thank you, brother. I thank you for your time, man. Appreciate you. Until
Appreciate
next
you. Have
month,
a great one.
man.
Thank you. I appreciate it greatly.
All right, man. Hey, it's Trip Talk Tech.